Today we're reacting to two separate incidents when the diver ran out of air at 60 feet. Hello everyone, I'm Gus.
I'm Woody.
And today we're reacting to two separate incidents in which a diver ran out of air at 60 feet and the way they handled it. These are two separate people, two separate incidents, and I think we can learn from both of them. They're both pretty short videos, not a whole lot to react, but one of the things that I want to get from you and that I want to share with everyone watching is, okay, what would you do if this happened to you? If all of a sudden you have no air, what should be kind of like the action to take place?
First thing that's coming to my mind is whether or not I have somebody nearby. So let's not talk about that anymore. Let's watch it.
Let's watch the video.
Find out what happened.
Absolutely. All right. Please turn your sound on. I'm glad he reminded me. Cool turtle.
It's like South Florida to me.
Drift diving.
Yeah. It looks like South Florida.
You gotta embrace the current. Let it take you away. Don't fight it.
Agreed. This is common, by the way, that you'll want us to... Oh, I don't like his fins laying on the bottom.
And he's touching the turtle.
And touching the turtle. You're going to burn a lot of air swimming against the current, for sure. But that's bad what they're doing.
Yeah.
Most dive operators today would give you a warning if they saw you doing this.
He's breathing so fast.
I guess he's just kicking. Stay there.
So he forgot to check his air. His gauge. He's just there like... Oh! You can hear it.
Wow.
Oh, sounds wet. Takes the group away. He realizes, uh-oh, no air.
Yep, give it a second. I want to see if he's alone.
Okay, let me pause. Let me pause here for a second because he just wrote, I realize I have very little air. The air pressure inside your tank, and I'm just going to talk in PSI for the imperial units, but this also applies to bars. The air pressure in the tank is anywhere between 0 and 3,000 PSI, all right? Or 0 and 200 bar if you're working on bar. Now, your regulator has two stages. The first stage is connected to the tank. It's going to reduce that air pressure in the tank from, let's say you have a full tank, 3,000, to an intermediate pressure, which varies depending on the brand. But it will say, let's say it's 160 PSI, all right? Just to say a number. Then that air goes into your second stage, which takes those 160, and when you breathe in, it feeds it to you at a pressure that is not going to blow up your lungs. That's basically how a regulator works. When your regulator, your second stage, gets under 160 PSI, which is about 10 bar, for those of you who work in bar, it all of a sudden becomes harder to breathe. Because the air pressure the regulator needs to work, which is normally 160, it's now, the first stage is sending less than that because the tank doesn't even have 160. So you don't all of a sudden run out of air. That's one misconception that people think about, that when you run out of air, you immediately run out of air. You can actually feel it. For me, under a, let's just say control environment in a pool, in a shallow pool where I can stand, I ran a tank all the way to the bottom, to 0, and I got it to about 8 PSI, which is less than 1 bar. And I can tell from 160 PSI or so and lower, 10 bar or lower, that it was hard, that I had to like suck in hard to be able to get air because it's getting harder and harder to breathe. So what he's saying is that I realize I'm very low. It's true. You actually can tell as you're breathing, like, wait, something is wrong. I'm about to run out of air, and by the time you have 100 and something psi, you have only a couple breaths left, a few breaths left before you're completely out.
I was going to actually say something totally different.
All right.
We should be monitoring our air.
That's true, of
Just
course.
look at your signal pressuring gauge or your dive computer.
That's right.
Every few minutes, every minute to 3 minutes is the suggested amount of time you should glance and see how much air you have. And we should be diving with the rule of thirds. Use up 1/3 of your air on the deepest outbound part of the dive, another third to return to your ascent point, be back on the boat with no less than 500 psi. Then this wouldn't have happened.
That's right. Obviously.
Okay.
Keep your eye on the...
Watch
on
your
the gas.
air.
Watch your air. Yep, nobody's paying attention. Which is common.
It looks like he's going to be alone, so let's...
Yep.
All right. Let's see what kind of emergency ascent he performs.
Seems like a swimming ascent.
You said he was at 60 feet?
Yep. And he's skyrocketing. He makes it to the surface. I don't know why he slowed it down in slow motion.
I'm going to
for drama
comment, but
purposes.
I was waiting for this to end. I have good comments. Is this a shore dive or a boat dive?
All right.
All right, let's pause it for a second. Okay.
Go ahead.
My first comment is that we are taught something under SSI called an emergency buoyant ascent if you're deeper than 30 feet. I think you said he was at 60 feet.
He did.
If you're deeper than 30 feet, what we are told to do, taught to do, is we would ditch our weights immediately. Flare back, so imagine you're laying on your back. Hold up your low pressure inflator hose to let air out of your BCD, because when you ditch those weights, you're going to start floating up to the surface. And as you go up, you're going to go up faster and faster and faster and faster because the air in your BCD is expanding. So you need to let air out on the way up such that you're not having too rapid of an ascent. We try to keep it to no more than 30 feet per minute, or some people will say no more than 60 feet a minute. Additionally, you keep the regulator in your mouth and you exhale slowly on the way up so you don't explode your lungs, because if you hold your breath all the way up, your lungs are going to explode. You also keep the regulator in your mouth because what happens is, as Gus explained, is the ambient pressure is decreasing on the way up. Therefore, you may actually get a push of air coming from the second stage through those lines to give you one more breath. Probably would actually get one more breath of air on the way up because you have a decrease in that ambient pressure. That's what we are taught to do. What he chose to do, and it's hard to second guess somebody that's actually out of air at 60 feet underwater.
Right.
Is it looked like to me kick very, very fast and go straight up. The bottom line is, the summary is, nothing good can happen down there at that point.
Right.
You can't solve the problem. There's nobody around and you have no air. You do have to get to the surface. Now, once he's at the surface, I don't know what's going to happen, but I hope he has a surface signaling device that he can inflate so this boat can see him.
Right. Calm seas too, which helps.
I don't know if I would remove the mask, but it's pretty calm, like you said. So no waves are going to splash in his face.
Yeah.
By the way, at this point, he could orally inflate his BCD. Even though he doesn't have air, he could orally inflate it. So he's floating.
Yeah.
He's very calm.
If he has a signaling device, he's not deploying it. He's not moving or doing anything about it.
I don't see it.
Maybe the boat saw him or something? hitting his cylinder with a camera.
The group is long gone. They're drifting.
Yeah.
He's yelling, so maybe they're nearby.
He doesn't have a marker. Or he's not deploying or using it.
Well, in South Florida, you cannot... You can't get off the boat. You can't dive without a surface signaling device in South Florida. You have to be wearing that. They won't let you dive. Non-divers, that's just something that we blow up and stick straight up in the air so somebody can see you.
Problemo. I don't know.
Problemo.
Maybe he's in
You went to
Mexico.
the same school of Spanish that you went to. Problemo.
Mi español muy bueno.
Yeah. So that was it for the
bet she
first
is
one.
happy.
So something cool to learn.
Yeah, so, okay. Emergency buoyant ascent, a great skill to know, and don't dive without a surface signaling device.
That's right.
Looks like maybe he was in Cozumel since he was drift diving. By the way, they were on the bottom. We didn't really comment much about that. Look, if you're swimming against the current, you are going to burn up a lot of air. Watch your pressure gauge and don't touch the turtles. Don't touch the
anything.
turtles or the bottom. It's so devastating. We don't do that as scuba divers. For all of you watching, we stay neutral. We stay above the bottom, and we certainly don't touch the marine life. So let's go to the next one.
So on this next one, same depth. The guy runs out of air. Same problem. I don't know. Nobody checking gauges, I guess,
Okay.
these days. This guy actually has a buddy. So let's see what happens when he runs out of air.
Okay. I like the music.
Drama. $60 dives in total. His body over 1,000.
Interesting. They should know what to do.
Less visibility. They're following a line of some kind, so I
Yeah.
don't know where they are. Side mount. Look at the body. What? It's like, dude, I have no air. What? Yeah, it's fine. Just keep swimming.
I mean, if you're out of air, it's not going to be like, hey. I mean, it's like, dude, give me air. I'm out. You would be panicking underwater.
But look. You're missing it. Like, he keeps stopping the guy. Like, hey, dude, like, I'm low. Or like, I'm,
But there's a definitive signal is my point.
Right.
There's no, like, maybe what should we do? It's, I'm out of air. If I swim up to you guys and I'm going crazy like this, you're going to give me that regulator.
That's right, yeah.
So I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
no, this guy, he just keeps, he's like, what? Like, stop, go away. Like,
I mean, at
great
that
body.
point, I'm swimming up to the buddy and grabbing his alternate.
Yeah, or grab his
And
main regulator.
They
or
may
whatever.
grab the primary, yeah.
Yeah. Guy just keeps swimming. Dive number 2 is where's this guy?
He's at the surface.
One is out of air, and he's still down there. Now he felt he was going low, and still stay there. Look at this. He couldn't reach his body. This guy has no air. He's done. He has to bail. You can hear like.
42 feet, you know, he could make it, but this
You
is
can
tough.
hear the computer beep 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 beep. He's going too fast.
Man, feel for the guy. I mean, if I was that guy and I was giving the out of air signal, I would be pretty pissed off at my buddy.
Oh my god.
Imagine that. Imagine, Gus, if you gave me the out of air signal, I'm like, wow, dude, leave me alone. I'm looking at a fish. When I got back on the boat
we're gonna have
the
problems.
eyes are gonna be like fire looking at me, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because this is, again, day one scuba class in the pool, a skill that you will practice. And you will do this skill
A few times.
3, 4 times at least that I can think of in the open water class.
So
4
this
times.
guy, I feel like he had the right approach. He didn't panic. He went to his body, signal out of air. We can't see it because he's recording the body. But signal out of air. Our guess is that he didn't do a great job, right, doing that. He was like,
Don't do that. You're not going to do that.
right. And the body was like, what? Just go away. Like, yeah, whatever, right? But I think what we learned from this one is even if you have your body next to you and you make the right decision, you have to do it for real. Out of air, take the regulator. Like, he could have, he had enough time. Like, he signaled his body multiple times. Like, hey, dude, out of air. Get out of here. Hey, no. Hey, out of air. No, watch me. Out of air. Like, instead of doing all of that, go for the alternate and breathe.
And don't, you know what? The other thing I've heard a few times from various, I think it's from some folks, from Dan once told me this, that most people, once they're out of air for only 3 seconds, if you can imagine this, they will, at that point, start breathing in water. So 1, 2, 3, and then they're like, and they may start sucking in water.
Yeah.
Yes, you should try to exhale, but remember, if you ran out of air and you happen to be on the exhale portion of the moment you ran out of air, like, and now I'm out of air, I can't really blow more bubbles on the way up. You will expand, some of the air in your lungs will expand on the way up, but we practice it. When we practice this, we make you watch your gauge fall, and right before it hits 0, we encourage you to take one more big breath so that you can practice going up by exhaling. You know, once your air is out, you're going to give the out of air and you swim up, but that's after taking in a big breath. Who's to say that's when you're going to run out of air?
Yeah. I like the fact that this guy did not panic initially. Yeah. I wish he would have, kind of sealed the deal, like finish the skill by taking the regulator and breathing and all of that and not doing an emergency ascent. But there's so much to learn from it. We've seen videos right here before, like the one that I'm going to put right here in the corner, where, people ran out of air and they immediately panicked and bolted to the surface. They didn't even try to, or in that case, it wasn't an out of air, but like his full face mask failed and the guy immediately bolted to the surface.
Do you think it would dawn on you, if you were in that situation and it was on an exhale moment, so you really don't have any ability to even blow out, do you think that you would say, I'm going to open up my low pressure inflators and try to take a breath out of my BCD? You have air in your BCD because you're supposed to be swimming neutral. There is air in there. And I always wonder for myself, because we don't practice that skill.
Right. If you'll have
we don't teach that, but you do have air in that BCD. And I always wonder, and maybe I need to pose this, dive agencies that are listening, comment, why don't we actually do that? Because
we teach people to let it out on their way up or whatever on an emergency ascent. But
why not take a breath out of it? I'm wondering why we don't do that. The air inside of that BCD
it's
probably is air, probably was not orally inflated, so it's not even tainted. Why not push the button, put it in your mouth, and you got one more breath and then exhale out more? I wonder why that's not a skill. And I guess it's the RSTC that, who helps develop the mandatory skills for all the agencies. I don't know, actually.
Worst case scenario, you can breathe it in and back out into the BCD and breathe it again, and it would still work the second time.
It would. You wouldn't get it CO2 because you've only exhaled 16%. So you actually get a couple breaths. There's enough air in that BCD, by the way.
Yeah.
You could try it, or we both can try it in the pool. Fill up get neutral in the pool. Don't fill it up. Just get neutral and see how many breaths we would have from the BCD. Yeah. I think that it's worthy of trying that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the best breathing, obviously, work of breathing.
No.
but it can save your life. I think.
You could. They may say, well, you could get water, but you could get water inhaling just from a regulator as well. But
Right.
I
Or
get
you
it.
can drown.
It's not a mouthpiece. It's just a little opening.
Right.
I'm posing this because I always wondered this before, why we don't teach it, and would it dawn on me to do that? I don't know. I could sit here now and say, yeah, sure, I would do that.
Yeah, that is a really good observation. For a skill. And I know we're teaching a class soon, but that could be one on the emergency buoyant ascent where, look, if you see that the surface is up there and you're still going up and you're about to pass out, get ahead of that BCD. Just
Because listen, I always say, for sure we know one thing. If you can't make it to the surface because you're running out, you ran out.
yeah,
There's nothing more good that can happen down there.
yep,
So nothing worse can happen to you by taking that hit of air out of the BCD than by just not making it to the surface. At that point, you do drown and die.
Right.
Anyway, it's an interesting question. We've now put it out there to tens of thousands of people, and I'm sure we're going to get some very interesting comments back on
yeah.
that.
Let's see what people think and why that's not even mentioned at all during a class. But
not.
I think it makes sense. It totally makes sense. Other than that, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Hopefully, you can learn some stuff from people that have ran out of air and decided to record it, or they were recording it and happened to record the out of air incident. Because I think that we can learn a lot from these, and especially because no one got hurt. They made it to the surface. No. They survived. So that's a good thing. But anything else you want to add?
Thank you, everybody. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting indeed. We'll see you guys next week with yet another episode.
Thanks, everybody.